Welcome to How to Tell Someone. I'm your host, Tanya Pesky. Before we get started, I encourage you to check the episode description. That's where you'll find content warnings. Guests on How to Tell Someone are telling vulnerable, personal stories that sometimes contain themes that may be difficult for some listeners, so please take care while listening. You want to wake This story comes from Jade. Jade's story spans the length of her relationship with Quinn, during which Quinn came out as trans. Although pseudonyms are used in this episode to protect privacy, Quinn's name was chosen with care and is the only name used to refer to her. Throughout the episode, Jade uses Quinn's post-transition chosen pronouns, both out of respect and because these are the pronouns that Quinn uses today.
So I'm from New England and was raised in like the North Shore of Massachusetts to a, I would say middle class to ending with upper middle class background. My mom's side of the family goes back to the Pilgrims, and my dad's more Ellis Island, but so waspy on one side. And and my dad was very conservative, and I was one of 4 siblings. I was the second kid, but oldest daughter. So, like, for, sibling purposes, closer to like the guinea pig of the feminine experience in the household. And I put him through it, really lived up to that. My parents were very, very involved. I think that looking back now, I can tell my dad is like autistic, and his family was the thing that brought him the most like pride and joy in his life. And he would do anything for his kids. We were always put first. And because he owned his own business, he would like take time off of work to be a chaperone for a field trip, or I was involved in so many after-school sports that my mom drove me to diligently. She spent so much time in a car, and she was also like the head of the PTA and coordinated pasta dinners, and also just very involved, like wanted to coach softball and synchronized swimming and all the things that I was interested in. And I was just encouraged to be who I wanted to be and do what I wanted to do within reason, because the Catholic thing, they really wanted me to be a Christian. My dad, like I said, very conservative, claps at the TV when Bush was speaking. Like, that was a vivid memory of my childhood. It was just Fox News all the time, and the president's speaking. And my mom, I would say, is like apolitical. I actually talked to her before this. I asked her, I'm like, where do you fall politically? And she's like, well, paraphrasing, there's like so much diversity with like who I surround myself with that I try not to be any one way. But she's like, I think that if I was in a vacuum, I would be like liberal. I think that my mom is a really good person, and she just has so much compassion and empathy and likes to take care of people and just do reasonable things to take care of others. But I think she was also a supportive wife and partner, and my dad was like, it would be better for my business, ergo you, if you voted this way. They were very involved, and one could say that they were too involved. And my dad, when I was applying for college, said there's a 2-hour radius from our house, and anything outside that radius I'm not paying for. Freshman year, I wanted to get a nose ring, and he's like, if you get a nose ring or do anything to your face, they'll like cut you off. So some not great behavior. But the thing is, I ended up going to a school where I did co-op 6 months, a 6-month co-op stint in other states. And the minute I had graduated, I got my nose pierced, and I waited, and now I'm glad because I probably would have gotten the side, and now I have the septum piercing, and I think that that was the better choice. Yeah. My family was just like, I don't know. It was like, think of what's that American painter with the scene with the turkey, and it's at the dinner time, and he also Rockwell. Just like imagine that. That could be like my family. My dad like shows up after mom's prepared everything just to like carve the turkey, and then the woman would take the plates away, and you know, so while the men would sit at dinner afterwards. So just like a very gender norm household. When I look back at my childhood, I was like, oh, I was a little bit queer. You know, I remember one year asking my mom specifically for Christmas that I wanted female action figures, and there weren't any. I got like two rogues, like from X-Men, one the cartoon version, and one was like the live action version with Hugh Jackman, like when that first came out. So I have this toys of the females, and then every Halloween I was in drag. I realized, so I just like, I always like, I was like Robin Hood, I was Zorro, I was a pirate. And my parents were very supportive, and also my little sister was even more of a tomboy than I, and she would wear like these baggy like skateboarder Tony Hawk cargo shorts and like backwards hats. And my sister's married to a man, but at the time my mom wasn't I'm worried about my kids being any one way or straight or whatnot. I think that their love outweighed any like prejudices that they had, and that's, I think, a through line of the story. So in college, I really tried to distance myself, and I think it was important. And I left college, I think a little bit like I was a little baby conservative, and like drinking the Kool-Aid, and you know, I wanted girl action figures, but also like didn't want to pay for other people's welfare, like, or like, you know, we should have privatized health. I mean, I didn't actually have opinions. I was 18, but like probably entered college thinking I was a Republican just because that's what I was raised with. And then through college, just learned more, met more people, met more types of people, and had like the exposure to diversity and education. That's what you go to college for. After my 20s, I just kind of realized that for all their faults, they're good people. And I now live within a 3-hour driving distance to them. And I am part of their lives. And we'll be going home for holidays and stuff. So that's our relationship now. I can call my mom whenever. I could say the same for my dad, but it like, I don't, I would enjoy speaking with my mom, but maybe less so my dad, because there is still that conservative divide. Yeah. I think that I've become more accepting of differences. And like most people, I think I got to a point where I just realized that my parents were just two people trying their best, like we all are. And so, yeah, I'm not as dramatic. If they don't faze me as much or bother me. I'm just like, they're contextualized as our relationship is we're family and we'll be there for each other. I guess in terms of dating history, I like them queer. And I think that I am bi and I have more experience with men, but had dated women. And I had one significant relationship that lasted from the age of 17 to 22. And he was an effeminate man named Timmy. And we were just two weirdos against the world and just figuring out how to navigate adulthood. And but it ended because he cheated on me with a man that he met on Craigslist. We both really wanted to explore I really wanted to explore my sexuality at the time. And even like begged, can we do a hall pass? Can we do something? I just want to make out with a woman. And he was always like, no, you can't have sex with someone else, and I'm like, making out. Anyways, the relationship was ending, and we were drifting apart, and I didn't want to admit that to myself. So when he did what he did, it was actually kind of a relief, because I could be like, oh, I could point to this thing and be like, this is why we're breaking up. It's all on you. I get to walk away because I'm the victim here. And it just made it easier to start the process and stick with it. It was still devastating. But I had 2 years left of college, and I had time to make up for the fact that I had that relationship be like all of who I was, because like he would come every weekend. We spent all of our time together, and I don't think I had built good friendships outside of that. And so I had to just figure myself out. Another piece of context that might help. I was living a gap year, and I was living in Oregon at the time, and there was somebody that I was dating and I was in this really like transient place in life, not knowing what came next, and I met this guy, and he was really quite lovely, and we really hit it off, and within 2 weeks I was like, oh my gosh, is it worth like settling down somewhere, and have I found the person? And so we were we dated for like just a few weeks, but then he unfortunately passed away in a car accident. Well, I was there, and so that happened, and I think that there was more trauma from that in dating for me afterwards, because to fall so hard in love with somebody so quick, and then to have just them pass, it was it just had this feeling of like pulling the blanket out, or like if you're or the mat out from underneath your feet, and just like a what, and then just feeling robbed that like that happened, and robbed of all the future that we could have had together. And then the feelings of like wondering what could have happened, and then like I think it set me up for like moving forward with something, because you never know how much time you have. I started backpacking in Vietnam, and when I quit a corporate job, and my parents were so worried because they just, they really cared. And for somebody that wouldn't let me go to school outside of a 2-hour radius, for me to be like, I'm just going to go backpacking alone and across Asia. Oh, I was a goober, and I was hiking in a Phong Nha National Park, and I climbed up an old rickety watchtower, and as I was climbing back down, the ladder became unattached, and I turned and jumped, and on impact with the ground, it was a tib-fib break, and I was about a mile into the park, so a group of Vietnamese men with machetes came, because I was hiking with somebody that I met in the hostel that morning. They were cutting down bamboo, and they got a net, and they strung me up in the net and put the bamboo on their shoulders and walked out of the jungle, and then called a taxi, and I stopped at the hostel and got my backpack, and then rode 4 hours in the taxi to the nearest hospital, international hospital. And that's what so I had to call my parents from the jungle, still had good reception, I got the SIM card, and before going into surgery, the surgeon tells me, like, the metal we're putting in your legs, it's not used in the US anymore, but still good. So to this day, I don't know what's in my leg. I got the screws taken out, and I have them in a jar on my desk, but there's still a rod in there. So I think my dad has a lot of trauma from that, and I do feel really bad. I think he has actual PTSD. I think that for a while when he saw me calling, he just assumed bad news, and I feel terrible about that. But yeah, so and that's when I say, like, my parents, they didn't want me backpacking across Asia, but they supported me, and when I broke my leg, you can bet your butt that they got me a first class ticket home and nursed me back to health. So yeah, they're that type of parent. But gosh, yeah, recovering in their basement was terrible. When I went back to Vietnam, I was an English teacher, and I shaved my head and was really playing around with my gender expression. And like, I was starting to wear binders. I had the shaved head. I would wear big baggy t-shirts, and yeah, so I was definitely exploring at the time. We met at a speed dating event, and I went as a joke, because I mean, not as a joke, because I was like all set on finding love. Who's gonna find love at a speed dating event? I wanted to feel like I was in an episode of Sex and the City. My sister and I were gonna go, and they had like, the women stay seated and the men get up and rotate, and you had 5 minutes, and then you get an email later with everybody you matched with. And it was like something out of a rom-com. There was like people that took it very, very seriously. I was there with my shaved head and a Hawaiian shirt and my Chacos shoe, like sandals, and flirting with the woman I was sitting next to, and like just having a time. But that's how we met. We had a very just some shared interest. I think we talked about like IPAs and beer. She owned a brewery, and yeah, we just and I was into IPAs because I had lived on the West Coast. I don't know. And then the way we communicated was very like, let me info dump all the fun facts I know, and then you info dump all the fun facts you know. And it's just that way, direct conversation style was nice. You had to wait. It's like Tinder with more paperwork, speed dating. I had to wait a few days, and I got an email saying who, because after you do the whole thing, you get like a sheet and you write down who you're interested in a follow-up with. Yeah, and then the matchmaker gets it all and sends you an email saying you've matched with these people. And so then I reached out to her, because I'm very direct when dating. We met up and like talked for 4 hours, and you know, it was just those just didn't want to stop spending time with one another. And there was this like total Schitt's Creek style date where we went to an open mic night, and she performed and like teased about not knowing what she was doing, and she's like, well, I might just like strum through Wonderwall, you know. Like, and then she like gets up there, and the string breaks, and so then she switches to another guitar, and then brings the house down with like a Boulevard of Broken Dreams and a bunch of other songs, because it turns out she was in a band, turns out she studied orchestral composition in college, and was a very talented musician. And like but the whole time leading up to her getting on stage, I was like, don't do it, it's not worth it. Like, because I was in front of my sister and all of her friends, but then everybody was like in the bar was singing along and dancing, and other artists or like musicians got up and had accompanying music to go with it. And yeah, it was just like, it was really cute, like the wholesome story of early love, being serenaded at an open mic. Things moved quickly because I was ready to find someone and wanted to find someone, and this person also had a real jobby job, based in the States, and was a digital nomad before it was cool. So I was living in Vietnam while working for a U.S. company. So like I was, I had a teacher's salary, and she had a tech salary, and so like I was like, wow, I was eating like 50-cent dinners, like street food type things, and she would buy me a $1.50 meal, and I'd be like, whoa, big spender. Like, we'd go to like the Western style restaurants and have appetizers, and so I was just swept off my feet, and we moved in together really early on. I had a backpack worth of stuff. And so I'm like, let me move my backpack from this like one room in a teacher's house to your penthouse on the 20th floor. So yeah, things move quickly. We would joke that we were just U-Haul lesbians because of how quickly we moved in together. And I also enjoyed that, like, even though there was that like discrepancy in pay and jobs and where we were at in life, she never made me feel lesser than, and always like an equal. And I just felt our relationship was very genderless from earlier on. Having dated mostly men, it just didn't feel like that so much. And so yeah, I was just really happy. We met in July, and I moved in like end of September, and then we went to Europe for like a month and a half at the end of that year, and then we got back to Vietnam in January, and that's when the pandemic happened. And then we kept trying to book flights out of Vietnam, but countries just kept closing down because I always had like a layover in Turkey or something, so we weren't able to leave until I think it was that July. So about a year together in Vietnam. We were really good in quarantine together. We got along well, and we're both kind of introverts, so we were able to do our own thing while being together. And I think it was just nicer to have someone to go through all that with. And it was like, again, new love, and so it's you're still building a thing together. And I think for this person, it was. I think one of the reasons it was working was because we were in a vacuum. Less stimuli, external stimuli was better for her and for our relationship, because we could just do our own thing and be in our own little world. And so it didn't add a strain, but maybe added a false sense of like compatibility. And then we moved to Seattle because she got a big tech job. Yeah, we were pros at moving. Actually, it's funny. We got married. We eloped in a upcycled shipping container, the wedding studio. We were married by a lesbian with pink hair. And our honeymoon, we said, was us moving into the Seattle like house together. And it was so fitting because like most of our relationship had been like traveling or big I don't know, moves or traveling, but so to settle and build something together was our honeymoon. So we moved to Seattle and lived there, and then wanted to buy a house, and it was not a reasonable thing to do out there. So we bought a house in Maine and moved to Maine. I think that this was kind of the turning point in my relationship with my parents, in that I realized, like, after having spent so many like holidays away and being in Seattle, even just like, do I want to fly home? Do I want to take off work, use vacation time to fly home, just to hang out with the fam? So it was like, well, we wanted to be closer to them, 3 hours, but without, so like it could be a weekend trip and driving, but not having to make it a whole, I don't know, excursion on a plane. So moved to the East Coast. We bought built in 1872, probably a sea captain lived here, a hodgepodge of additions, and what it has in character, it lacks in most things working. It's everyone comes in and they're like, wow, it's got sturdy bones, but single pane windows, and there's not a level surface to be found. You could, if I dropped a marble anywhere in the house, they would roll. But no, I love it. And it's in this gorgeous little mid-coast Maine town with an interesting art scene and like a fishing history. It's a 10-minute walk to the one main street in town where things happen. And I think Maine is, you can find community here that I had trouble finding elsewhere. Just that people look out for each other in a really nice way. And maybe it's just because I lived in cities, but I walk to work with my dog, and I pass my friend's house and I wave hi to them. I go to I know people at like shops and stuff, so like that type of small town vibe, but with enough culture that it's interesting, between museums and art and good coffee shops and live music and stuff to do. I think a house was different because a house comes with the responsibility and the project management of like fixing it up. And I think we were a little in over our heads in like the deferred maintenance of the house. And so that did become kind of a contentious point for us. Just, yeah, who's responsible for what. And it was the idea that I was going to take time off of work and focus on the house, and then I didn't, and instead got a part-time job at a art gallery and at the nonprofit that I'm working at now. And so yeah, but the you were meant to be the operations manager of the household. That kind of argument never went away, and became a point of contention later. I was genuinely excited about it because like who doesn't want to just like devote their time to like fixing up the house, but also when I think the magnitude of the project, and I was also got more excited about being in town and being part of things and not just being stuck in the house. That's when I think it felt more like quarantine, when it was like I had to opt to stay in with her rather than like had to stay in with, you know what I mean? There's just things to do, and I wanted to be more involved. And then we had a family vacation planned where we were going to join my parents and sister on a vacation to Hawaii. And Quinn wanted to start like transitioning physically, but was like, I'm not doing it until like after this trip with your parents. So it wasn't the first time that Quinn had transitioned. She had transitioned as a teenager and then detransitioned and then retransitioned. And that was like this big secret that she was like ashamed of, didn't want anyone to know. But earlier on, when I was telling my mom about this person, I had mentioned that she had changed her name in the past, and for some reason my mom just like really couldn't let it go, and really wanted to know the backstory behind that. And it took like years, and then finally Quinn was okay with it. So and she was like, well, you can tell your mom, but like I never want to talk about it and I don't want it brought up. And yeah, so it was just this thing. And then like that information, I don't think in relation to the actual like the coming out within our marriage, I think it just happened organically outside of that. But so there was that context of like my parents knew that Quinn had transitioned, so they had to at least be familiar with what that meant, and why that was a secret. And yeah, I think at least my mom knew. I don't think my dad knew. I'm not 100% sure on that. And I remember right when we got home from the trip is when she like shaved her beard for the first time, and then just started like experimenting more with like different like feminine things, like painting nails and wearing her hair like longer, yeah. So I think my mom noticed that, picked up on that. I think like, you know, when your son-in-law asks you to braid her hair, and she's a guy, I think that there's it's weird because like I'm not saying that guys can't have braided hair. That's not what I'm saying. But like the please, like I think that she was calling her mom. Mom, can you do my hair? It was just that, in while she like had her nails and after she had shaved her beard, and just was I think mannerisms were starting to change. So like I think my mom was perceptive and picked up on something. And then my sister was getting married in Africa, and so we had another trip like the following month, and my sister kind of had a quick turnaround of a wedding for visa reasons, and Quinn did not want to go on that trip. We were at the airport, and I didn't say. It was kind of like a soft launch, if you will. like, but my mom, who also just has a very strong Boston accent, um, was just like, I don't know. There's so many changes with Quinn. I'm just worried that one day she's gonna like just dress like a girl all the time or be a girl all the time. And I was like very defensive, and I was like, well, what would be so wrong with that? And just ready to get mad, ready to be like, you don't understand, so the conversation kind of turned negative. Like, like you don't get to know the full story now. We're gonna like withhold that information for a bit, because it's a very personal thing, the levels of coming out that trans folks need to do. And at that point, after having told the story of the airport to Quinn, she was like, oh, I don't. It just delayed the process even more. I actually like called my mom in preparation for this. I'm like, what can you tell me about that time? My mom just had a lot of questions. She's a very inquisitive person, and she said it was really stressful because she didn't know what was offensive. And yeah, well, and then there was a lot of like ignorant things said, but they were just ignorant. Like she really didn't know. She just said, she also was like, it could have been done better. So it was like after we had gotten back from the trip and a few weeks out, the wedding trip to Africa, it might have been a week or a month, I'm not sure, but some amount of time for us to like get upset about the conversation in the airport, but enough time for us to have got over it and like, well, it's not like we can't say anything. And Quinn was like, well, I don't want to do it. And so apparently, according to my mom, I was in person. Quinn wasn't there, and I slid it into a conversation, was her phrase of how I so honestly I don't remember it. I had to like really think about it. It just was, there was a lot going on at that time. It wasn't like this visceral memory for me, just because of the nature of all the things that were changing, and all the people that we were telling. And then when she was transitioning, there's just a lot of nuance in which circles are you out in, and which pronouns are you using with which group. And so it was complicated to keep all that straight as the partner, but you want to do your best. And so it was just kind of like for I don't know, cognitive overload's sake, can we just use one uniform set of pronouns with everyone we know? And I think it was on me to do the communication, which my mom was like, I think it could have been handled better, in the sense that you and Quinn would tell me, hey, we have something to tell you, and like have like a I don't know, almost like a press secretary, like a publicity moment of like, okay, we will tell you this thing, and we're now open for questions. Because my mom really struggled with the, she felt like it was sprung on, and you don't even know what questions to ask because you don't have the vocabulary to ask them. But you're also faced with this person who's just ready to be offended at you. I think I could have been more mature and empathetic towards where my mom was at with her knowledge, and I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase it. Like, yeah, she's gonna say ignorant things. She's gonna say like really offensive things, but it's the impact versus intent, and we're so like focused on that. We're like we already had the impact no matter what she said, because we were so waiting for her to mess up. And I don't know where that came from. I think that when your partner is transitioning, you just take it upon yourself to. I mean, not take it upon yourself. You just support them in any way that you can, and because it's a really challenging time, and it's like you get defensive on their behalf. If any, if we'd go out to eat, I would we'd sit down and immediately I'd be like, she'll have a glass of water, and just doing like things like that, or just finding any excuse to say like her pronouns out the gate, just to try to make things easier, because it can really make or break someone's day to be misgendered. In relationship with my parents, I think that's how I went in to the conversation, not thinking about like who they were as people, but the ways that it could be, all the bad things that could happen from the discussion. That was just my mom. I told my dad later, and I told him, and again, my mom reminded me of how I did it. So my dad went to rehab, and his roommate was trans. And all these years I thought, like, oh, well, he was in the men's dorm, so he was, it was like a trans man. But no, this place was, I don't know, I guess not that great. And so his roommate was a trans woman. But I didn't know that. I just knew that they were trans. So I broke it to my dad by saying, oh, Dad, do you remember your roommate in rehab? And Quinn is like that. And I think my dad's way of processing it was to just like not talk about it and be like, well, like I really only care about you anyways. So as long as you're still happy, like then I'm happy. So it wasn't like a big deal, but it was just more of like how quick they were to make the effort to adopt new pronouns. And also this is something that like even 2 years down the line, my mom still struggles with. I mean, my dad does too, but that's more because of dementia than anything. And that I've learned to not get as mad, but it's very frustrating when you just have to keep correcting someone's pronouns the whole conversation. It was a trigger for a bit, because it was like, oh, you messing up is you not understanding, but that's not the case. Again, she's trying her best. Another thing that my mom told me later was that I left it to her to tell extended family in time for like the holidays. My mom wishes that I didn't do that to her, make her be the communicator to the family, because then people would ask follow-up questions and she would have no idea, and she wouldn't have she still didn't have like the right vocabulary. And similarly, like it was me like being the one to tell my family rather than us being the one to tell my family. So that was just a choice that I don't know if we made or Quinn made. But at the point, just happy to support however I could, And it I don't know, like I guess it was nice to have my mom as a buffer so that she could, I don't know, collect all the questions asked me in a polite way, that and it also begs the question of like how much do you need to educate like I mean how much research should I have expected my parents to do when I told them that my spouse is transgender? Like how did, maybe it would be better to just like make the relationship as we go, and not let it change anything, and just operate off the information that we were telling them, versus like I don't know, going on the internet and hearing all the things. I think that it was important to like tell a story rather than to use terminology. It was important to say Quinn, who was born a man, identifies as a woman and is now transitioning into a woman, and it's who she's been her whole life. And you know what I mean? The just the using names and people rather than being like, well, this assigned male at birth person, yeah, and then going to the theory of just gender versus sexuality. Because it is like it's one person transitioning, but it's everyone in the family transitioning too. And I mean, whether it's pronouns and perception, or like it's we're all going through it together. It's not my son-in-law is my daughter-in-law, and now I have this many daughters in my life. And I think at this time also I keep talking about my mom because she really for the past 5 years or so has been really stepping up as like the matriarch of the family. I think that my family was very patriarchal, but my dad unfortunately later in life had substance abuse problems, and more recently had like cognitive decline. I think that this experience was really shaped by like him not being as like the man he was while I was in college with the 2 hour away thing, and like the control of the image of the family. I think that that probably made it easier. But also, I do think that my dad, at the end of the day, no matter what, would have been like, whatever, whoever makes you happy, you're my daughter. But certainly, like, less questions were asked. And, but it is weird if I go home, the Fox News is just on 24/7. And one time I was, I think, like, there's a room like over the garage, and my dad's hard of hearing, so he blasts it so loud so you could hear it all from the room of the garage where I was trying to sleep. And it's like this, and then transgender athlete won its or something, and then the whole discourse around it, and I had to like shout, "Hey, Dad, can we turn that down?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize." My mom, I think that she's like just a very maternal person, and didn't so much see a like the male or female. She saw like, this is like a child of mine, and I will take care of them. And there was a large surgery, a gender affirming surgery that I wasn't able to go to because I did a lot of them back to back. And my mom actually offered to go with Quinn to this other state to get the surgery and help with the recovery. Another relative on Quinn's side stepped up to for that role, but like, my mom offered. She's just very loving and was supportive. And I think that it wasn't so. I think they saw it through the lens of this is our daughter's partner, and not like one of those examples on the TV that Fox News is mad at. I think we were really lucky. It could have gone a lot of ways, and I'm glad that it didn't go those more negative ways, and that we were able to keep a relationship. And certain members of the extended family were a little less chill. Like, not the majority were fine, but like there's just one like step uncle that just wouldn't make eye contact, even when. Yeah, and then other relatives, just the misgendering thing. So just a lot of correction, but at least they like would try, and at least they would make the effort to correct themselves. So yeah, it was largely a positive thing in the end. The story doesn't have a happy ending, in that ultimately, for a myriad of reasons, like it just didn't work out between us. I think that there were just it goes back to we were great in a vacuum. We were great just us, but in life there's more than just us. You're the primary focus, but you're not it. And I think that handling other variables of life together, we weren't compatible in. I think that the transition strained things and exacerbated things that probably would have crept up on us in the end. But I think just sped up the process. I don't want to go into the specific details of like the things that strained us, but it's a lot. It's emotional, it's physical, it's like social, it's it impacts every part of your life, and every part of your life changes, and how you move through life changes, and so it was just a lot, and I don't think it's what broke us, but I think it's what sped up the underlying things that ultimately broke us. I learned a lot, and I'm a more compassionate and empathetic person because of Quinn, and I think there's a part of me that will always love Quinn, and want to be there for her, and support her, but just not in a way where we're married. I was at my late 20s and my friends were getting married, and here I found this person that I was very compatible with and just kind of jumped 2 feet in. And also because of the wanting to fall in love and having felt that love was taken from me, it all combined to this like fast moving relationship of, I found the person and let's go all in. And it was one of those relationships where we were married after like only a year of dating, and that year most of it was in quarantine. So hindsight 2020, maybe that wasn't the best timeline, but Quinn just kind of scooped me up off my feet and took care of me and offered this stability that I had been seeking through my years of like traveling and working odds and ends jobs, and I just wanted to settle with somebody. I learned that there's always room for more empathy and more compassion, and that validation to a partner goes beyond just saying, I understand. I think I'm still learning how to authentically validate other people's experiences. Yes. And I don't think that at any time there was a time that I was like gonna side with my parents over my partner, like we're close, but they're not like, oh, dump your spouse. That was never even a thought that crossed my mind. And I don't think that they had any delusions that they had that type of power, and I think that is something that, I don't know, might have moved things along. Just like, well, it's not like we're gonna get our daughter to get a divorce based on our opinions or misunderstanding of this. So might as well learn what we can and do what we can and just keep going for the sake of the continuity of our family. Also, it was kind of affirming for me, because I think my parents for the longest time did some of the bi tropes of well, it's just a phase, or you ended up with a man, see, we knew. But when I ended up with a woman, I was like, yeah, haha, like I really could have gone either way. And now I get to tell people I've been married to a man and a woman, bisexual icon. My parents also, to your point, have had that like, well, she's just gonna do what she's gonna do. While I was backpacking, daughter, like all your education and you're working on a farm, like I'm like, I'm finding myself, Mom, God.
When it comes to communicating something as deeply personal, complex, and sensitive as gender identity, we're not just speaking to the person in front of us. It can feel like we're in hand-to-hand combat with oppression itself. And on the other hand, it can feel like we're under siege, doomed to lose a battle that we don't even understand. When we're in a position of advocating, supporting, or just simply trying to understand, maybe all we can do is be much more aware of our pretenses and defenses, make space for ignorance to be just what it is, and value connection over perfection. I've included a list of resources in the show notes for anyone who wants support, wants to learn more, or wants to better show up for the trans people in their lives. You'll find crisis support links, guides for families and partners, and educational tools for understanding gender identity. I also want to highlight 2 trans-led organizations I personally support, Transgender Law Center, or TLC, and the Black LGBTQIA+ Migrant Project, or BLMP. They're doing incredible community-centered work, and I encourage you to check them out. All of the links are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time.